Most women think if you want to get a lean, toned body, you need to eat tiny portions and keep your calories super low. But what if you could get those results and easily maintain them while eating a lot of food? Obviously, that would be way more enjoyable and also so much more sustainable. Well, that's exactly what I myself have achieved. I've gotten the lean, toned body of my dreams, and I easily maintain it year-round on 2,300 calories a day. And this hasn't only worked for me, I've also helped tons of women achieve the exact same thing. Even women in their late 40s, their 50s, even their 60s, and women as short as 4'11" or 5 foot. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to get your maintenance calories nice and high like this, and what mistakes to avoid so you don't accidentally end up gaining a bunch of body fat. Alright, so starting off with me, here is my current physique, and I can confidently say this is the happiest I have ever been. I am really proud of what I've been able to achieve. So I'm sitting right around 130 pounds, maybe give or take a pound or two. I'm just under 5'6", and I just turned 34 years old. And because I very diligently track data, I take weekly progress photos, I weigh myself every single day, first thing in the morning, I know based on that data that I will maintain my weight around 2,300 calories a day. Now, to be honest, I will probably be able to increase this maintenance level of calories to probably maybe like 2,500 over the next few months as I slowly increase my food and work really hard on my training, which is exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. Now, as I said, this is not something that only works for me and I just have these amazing genetics where I am the lucky exception. Far from it. I have done this with so many women, even women who are very short or who are older, which totally goes against the narrative that so many women have, where they think, oh, I'm in perimenopause or I'm just way too old now and I have to eat so little if I want to have any hope of losing weight and being toned. This is totally incorrect. If that's what you're feeling, it is because your strategy is just not correct. But don't worry, because I'm going to teach you what this strategy should be in this video. So for example, here is my client Karen, who is 45 years old and has lost a total of 20 pounds working with me. And not only did she lose 20 pounds, and obviously she's gotten so toned, so lean, like literally chiseled abs, but she is only 4'11", and guess what? She is maintaining the 20 pounds down, eating 2,400 calories a day. Here's another example, my client Kate, who is 49 years old, only 5'2", and when she first started our coaching, she thought she was doing everything right. She was lifting heavy weights, progressively overloading, training 4 days a week consistently, but she was only eating around 1,600 calories a day, and although she was eating plenty of protein, she still felt kind of soft and flabby. Well, now we have gotten her so toned, so snatched and defined, popping glutes, chiseled abs, toned thighs, and she is now maintaining this physique also on 2,400 calories a day. She has lost a total of 13 to 15 pounds down while working with us and while increasing her calories by 800 a day. Literally, can you imagine losing weight, being more toned, more defined than ever before, while eating hundreds more calories than you used to? Yes, it's possible, and I'm going to explain how. And lastly, this is our client Leslie, who is 47 years old and who has also lost 20 pounds over the last year of working with us one-to-one. But not only has she lost 20 pounds, she is easily keeping it off while eating 2,500 calories a day. She lost her cellulite. You can see how slim and toned her legs are. And she also got chiseled abs while eating so much more food. And she's now easily maintaining these results. Now, if you love the way that these results look and you're like, oh my word, I want that exact kind of transformation, you don't even need to explain anything to me. I'm interested in working with you to get that exact kind of transformation. And then go ahead, click on the link in the description. You can check out all the details of how our one-to-one coaching works, and you can fill out an application if you're ready to get high-level one-to-one customization and support throughout your entire journey to finally have the sexy, fit, toned body of your dreams and be able to easily maintain it on high calories year-round. So if that's what you're looking for, click on the link in the description. I'd love to chat with you and see if we would be a good fit. Okay, so now that you have seen some of the insane results that are possible, that seem to defy logic, that totally defy the narrative that most women have heard their entire lives, that they need to starve themselves, they need to constantly be dying on the treadmill if they ever want to hope to even look somewhat good, let's break down how this is possible. So first and foremost, if you want to get a toned, defined, sexy, strong looking body, a body where it looks very obvious that you consistently work out, you have to know what is that body actually made of? And this is the first mistake the vast majority of women are making, and this is why they are not getting results despite trying really hard. Most women think to get a physique that looks really toned and defined, all they need to do is lose body fat or lose weight on the scale. And this is exactly why they are constantly chasing low calories, low carb, exercising a ton, focusing on how many calories they're burning, because they think the only thing that matters is calories in versus calories out and seeing that scale go down. Well, you yourself, if you're watching this, have probably fallen in this trap. And yeah, maybe you got a bit smaller, but you realize like, okay, but I don't actually really look like I work out. I don't have that sexy, firm, smooth skin, definition, and feminine shape that is what I actually really want to have. The reason why is, yes, you do need to lose body fat, you need to be a lean individual, but if you only focus on getting lean, you are never going to look that way, because the other big part of the equation is you need to gain plenty of muscle. It is the tissue that comes from muscle that you add onto your body that is not there right now, that is really going to give you that firm, smooth, tight, defined look. And it's what is also going to allow you to maintain it with ease, because the more muscle you have, the better your metabolism is. The more calories you're going to burn 24/7 on autopilot, the better your hormones are going to produce more hormones and work the way that they should. It's going to increase your bone density. It's going to improve your skin elasticity. So that's what's going to make you look younger, smoother, tighter as you are aging. This is exactly why there are women who are 50, but they look like they could be in their 30s, because they have muscle. They have taken care of themselves in this way. Okay, so now that you understand that dream, sexy, fit, toned, feminine body you want to have is a combination of gaining quite a bit of muscle and also keeping your body fat levels relatively low. We then need to understand that although you can achieve both at the same time to a degree, meaning you can have some fat loss and some muscle gain at the same time, which is called body recomposition, so quite literally recomposing the source of weight on your body, taking fat off while simultaneously adding muscle on. You can do this to a degree, but eventually, if you really, really want to kind of get this dramatic transformation, it is going to make the most sense to alternate phases. So yes, we need to gain muscle, we also need to lose fat, and in order to achieve one or the other to its maximum potential, it makes the most sense to actually have a dedicated phase for each. Now, you've probably heard of bulking and cutting before, and that's exactly what this is all about. So traditionally in the bodybuilding space, that is what professionals would do. They would have their bulking season where they would eat a lot more food with the intention of actually gaining weight, but with a large amount of that weight being muscle gain. And then they would have their cutting season, which is where they would go into a calorie deficit so that they would lose weight, with the focus being fat loss so that they could strip off the fat and reveal all the sexy muscle they had built underneath to finally get that lean but also very strong and defined physique. Now, bulking and cutting works, and I myself have done it in the past. However, these days, after a lot of trial and error and working with multiple high-level coaches, luckily I have found an even more efficient way to do this, because the kind of downside with typical bulking is that although you're going to gain muscle, a lot of people end up gaining too much body fat, and this is why so many women kind of have this fear of eating more, because they think, well, if I eat more, I'm just going to gain all this weight and then I'm going to look big and blobby and bulky, and that's the last thing I want to do. So instead, they keep their calories really low, which maybe is making them kind of small, but it's also making them flabby and kind of squishy instead of toned and defined. So the solution, instead of doing a bulk and a cut, is to instead do what's called a reverse diet. So a reverse diet is literally the inverse of a diet, because when you're dieting, you are always bringing your calories lower and lower, versus a reverse diet, you are gradually increasing the amount of food that you eat. So you're probably thinking, okay, why on earth would you be increasing your food if your goal is to lose fat and to be lean and toned? Well, the whole point of a reverse diet is to get your body adapted to a higher maintenance level of calories. So this goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning, where I was showing all these women who have lost this weight, who have added this muscle, and they're now easily maintaining their results on, 23, 24, 2,500 calories a day. It's because they have done this process of meeting their body where it's at right now, whatever maintenance level you have right now, and then gradually increasing the amount of food that you eat so that your body's going to adapt. It's going to start burning more calories 24/7 on autopilot. And this is going to allow you to keep a lean toned physique with ease. And it's also going to make it that when the time does come for you to lose fat and go into a fat loss phase, to actually be in a calorie deficit, you're going to have so much room to drop from your intake to actually create a deficit. Because for example, if you end your reverse diet at 2,300 calories a day, which is what I just did a couple of months ago, and then you want to do a short, sweet fat loss phase to kind of lose the last little bits of fluff and reveal all the sexy muscle underneath that you built while you were reverse dieting, well, now you have a lot of room to drop your calories because your maintenance is 2,300 instead of doing what so many women do, which is that they kind of always eat around 1,600 calories a day, and then they want to lose fat and they have nowhere to go. So instead of bulking and cutting, what my method is and what we do with our online clients, and also what I myself do with my coach for my own physique, is alternating between reverse dieting and cutting. Reverse dieting, you are going to do the vast majority of the time, and that is because it is longer to add muscle onto your body. It takes more time than it does to lose fat. The other reason is because we actually like for our bodies to be at maintenance, and why wouldn't you want to be at maintenance if you are already lean? The only reason to go into a deficit is for one goal and one goal only, which is to try to take fat off your body and get leaner. But once you actually have achieved that, there's no reason to stay in a deficit. You should be exiting that deficit, but you want to do it the right way, where you're going to actually maintain the results instead of just gaining the weight back, which is what most women do because they don't know how to do this properly. Now, I know I'm talking a lot about calorie amounts and all of that to get this lean toned physique. I want to be really clear that your nutrition is absolutely fundamental, and knowing when and how to manipulate the amount of calories that you eat based on the data of your body is super important, but this is only 50% of the equation. The other 50% of the results that you're going to achieve that's going to give you that lean toned look comes down to the type of workouts that you do, or we can just call it your training. This is another huge area where women are going so wrong, and this is why you can be working out all the time. You can be working out 5-6 days a week, breaking a sweat, burning a ton of calories, feeling the burn, but if your training is not actually adequate, it's not actually doing anything that is necessary in order for muscle to grow, even though it might feel like it is, that is a huge reason why you are not seeing these kinds of results, why you're not getting lean and toned, because you're not actually building muscle, creating the stimulus that is necessary in your training to have that muscle growth in the first place. And then because you are not actually building any muscle in your training, that is what is keeping your metabolism at a lower amount, because without the extra muscle on your body, your metabolism isn't speeding up. So I want to be really clear and say that this whole process of increasing maintenance calories via a reverse diet is possible because you are doing really good quality training. So literally the biggest lever you have to pull in your journey is to really work on the quality of what you're doing in the gym. So for example, this is a huge part of our one-to-one coaching. We spend so much time going over our clients' training because unless we're actually helping them lift heavier weights, doing it in a good quality, controlled manner, doing the right exercises with the right range of motion, right tempo, right control, all of those things, they are not going to be maximizing the results the way that they need to be. So I'll give you an example with my client Amber here. When she started with me in December, this was the first set of deadlifts she sent me. You can see she's only using about 60 pounds, which is really not very heavy, although probably she thought it was quite heavy. But I can see that she's not really actually pushing herself. Again, although she probably thought that she was. I can see that there's so much room in the tank still for her to really be pushing her muscles to the max. That's going to create the level of stimulus necessary for her to see the muscle growth that she wants. She's also just moving really timidly, really slowly. She's not really just giving her all to the set, but she wouldn't know that unless she got this feedback, right? So I told her to do all those things, and then boom, this is how she's deadlifting now. She's moving way heavier weight, literally double, even more than double the amount of weight. She's moving in a really controlled, really fluid way, and you can see that she's pushing herself to a point where she doesn't have any reps left in the tank. Now, alongside doing good quality training like this, I have also taken her through a reverse diet into a cut, and she is now down 12 pounds since the start of her cut, and this is the transformation that she has. Now, the next phase for us to be doing is going to be exiting her deficit and slowly bringing her calories back up, so she's going to be able to maintain the results she achieved outside of a deficit at higher calories. Okay, to finish off this video, I'm just going to answer the question that I get asked all the time, which is, how do you know when you should be changing your calories and by how much? Well, to be honest, it is very difficult for me to answer this question because it so depends on the individual, and this is where it makes so much sense to actually get high-level one-to-one coaching, because every single person is different. It's going to depend on the way that your body is responding to the protocols that you're actually hitting. So obviously, if you want this to be as quick, as streamlined, as efficient as possible, and just to get the best results of your life without having to guess and wonder and spend all this time and energy spinning your wheels but not really getting results, that's exactly why we have this online program. So again, if you would love to have that level of support, then click on the link in the description, fill out an application. I'd love to chat with you and see if you'd be a good fit to work with us one-to-one. Now, that being said, I will try to give a sort of overview to this question. It is absolutely essential if you want to know when and how to be moving through a reverse diet versus a cut, how much you should be eating, what needs to be tweaked or changed. You must be tracking data. Do not just randomly guess and think like, oh, well, today I felt a little bloated, so I'm slashing my calories. No, you need to be very objective in this process, which again is why it is so helpful actually to have a coach, because they're going to be able to look at your body and everything that's going on without any emotion attached, versus we tend to be really emotional about our own bodies and our own fitness journeys. But let's say you are unable to do coaching right now, really do your best to actually look at data and make an objective analysis of what the best decision for you is. So what is the data you should be tracking? Like I said at the beginning of the video, you need to be weighing yourself every single day, first thing in the morning, after using the washroom, preferably naked, and before eating or drinking anything. Then you want to keep track of that. And what matters more is not so much the individual weigh-in. So for example, your weight on any one given day doesn't really matter, but what does matter is seeing what is actually happening with the trend of your weight over time, because that is giving you a lot of information to understand where your maintenance level may or may not be at. Now, alongside the scale, it is so critical that you are also taking weekly progress photos. Obviously, you don't need to take them every day. That would be redundant. And even a lot of people will give me pushback on the weekly. They're like, well, can't you just do it every couple of months? No, do it weekly. And the reason why is because you just want to keep an eye on how you are actually looking. And also because, for example, so many women automatically assume that, okay, if the scale goes up at all, that means I look fatter, I look worse, when a lot of the time, that is not the case. So it is so important that you are pairing what's going on with the scale with what is going on in your photos, because it is possible that you might be gaining some weight on the scale, especially if you're already skinny and you're coming from a background of being really restrictive with your food, and now you're gonna actually start fueling yourself properly, you're gaining muscle, you might actually gain a few pounds on the scale, but look so much leaner, so much more toned and defined, and let me tell you, this literally happens all the time with my clients. Now, alongside the scale and your photos, you also want to be evaluating what I call your biofeedback, meaning your hunger levels, your sleep, your stress, your digestion, where you're at in your menstrual cycle. Because don't forget, if you're menstruating or you're very close to menstruation, that is definitely going to affect how you look and feel in your photos, as well as what you see happening on the scale. So just because, maybe the scale went up a few pounds, or you're looking a little bit puffier, but you're late luteal, you do not go slashing your calories. You understand that, yeah, I'm literally about to start my cycle. Obviously, I'm going to be more bloated. That is what is to be expected. So I'm going to wait till this phase is over, and then I'm going to make some decisions of what the next best step is. So generally speaking, if you're in the process of a reverse diet, here is how I will make a decision about whether or not it makes sense to be changing a client's nutrition protocols. So let's say we're going through the reverse diet, and overall we're seeing that their weight is going down. That is usually a green flag that you can be bringing food up, because if weight is trending down as as they're staying consistent with their food and with their training, we already know that their metabolism is speeding up, their maintenance level calories are increasing, and since the goal of this is to kind of establish a new maintenance, we can start to increase their food. Now, usually you're only going to increase somewhere between like 60 to 100 calories, and it's mostly going to be to carbs, and every now and again you can give a little bit to fat. So usually it's going to be somewhere between 15 to 25 grams of carbs, and sometimes maybe to be like 10 grams of carbs and 5 grams of fat, because your fats are usually going to stay somewhere between 25 to 30% of your intake. There's no reason to be increasing your protein, by the way, so long as your protein is already adequate, which for me generally is 130 to 140 grams a day for a woman. If you're really petite or if you're vegan or something like that, it can be on the lower side. And for me, I don't believe in really ever eating more than 150 grams of protein a day. As a woman, it is just not necessary. If you're doing that, you are taking away calories that would be much better spent towards carbs, because carbs are going to give you more nutrients, more fiber, more vitamins and minerals, and it's also just going to be a better source for your training, for you to have the energy to build the muscle you need to build in the first place to get the results you want. Now, let's say you're going through this reverse diet, but you're seeing that your weight is overall maintaining, and when we look at your photos, your physique is probably getting a little bit more lean, a little bit more toned, or at least it's staying relatively the same. This is where I would probably only do an increase quite infrequently, because until we start to see that either your physique is really improving in photos and you're starting to get hungrier. If that's the case, if hunger is really going up and we're seeing that you're getting leaner, more toned, more defined, then definitely we can start thinking about doing an increase in food, again, very gradually. But if hunger is not really there, if everything's kind of just maintaining, I would stay here a little bit. You don't need to be in a rush to increase your food. And honestly, this is a very big mistake that a lot of women make. They think they need to be increasing their food like every single week. No, you don't increase unless you have the green flag that you should do so based on the data. Now, like I said, if you are not really getting that hungry and you're not really seeing that you're toning up and getting more defined, this most likely has something to do with your training, because you probably are not really training as hard, as well, as detailed, and just kind of spot on as you need to be seeing the results that you want. So your biggest lever to pull at this time is to really work on improving the quality, the effort, the intensity of your training, lifting the heavier weights, but making sure to maintain good form, good technique, and also not doing too much exercise, because if you're overdoing it, that's also affecting your recovery. So, just 3 or 4 days a week of doing, like 6, 7 exercises of 3 sets roughly per exercise, that is plenty. And if you want to see what one of my workouts looks like, I haven't actually done an updated version in a little while, but I do have one from about a year ago that will give you an idea of what a lower body day of training should look like. So you can check that out over here. Okay, and then the last scenario is, let's say your weight is actually increasing as you are going through the reverse diet. Now, this definitely is a fairly likely outcome that you might be seeing the scale go up a little bit. Now, it shouldn't be drastic if you are seeing that the scale is kind of like going up, I don't know, a couple pounds a week or something like that. I mean, this absolutely should not be happening if you are doing things correctly, if you're actually adhering to your protocol targets, and if you're staying on top of good quality training. So if that's weirdly happening, I would just make sure to check your adherence and make sure it's as spot on as it should be. But for some women, again, if you're kind of more skinny and you're coming from a background of not having eaten very much for a long time, it's fairly common that you may see the scale go up a little bit, but you do want to keep this relatively in check. Maybe it's only going to increase something like 1 to 2 pounds per month, and over the course of a sort of like 3 to 6 month reverse diet, you're looking at maybe like a 5-pound increase. I'd say probably the absolute maximum is 10 pounds, but again, that would be for somebody who's already pretty skinny. So just to give you an example here, this is my client Kiana, who weighs 4 pounds more on the right via doing her reverse diet. But as you can see, she is way leaner, way more toned. She lost a lot of body fat in the process of doing her reverse diet. So this is a perfect example where it made sense for us to be increasing her food, even though the scale was trending up a little bit, because she was obviously getting leaner. So this is why I say it is so important to also compare photos with what's happening on the scale. Because if you think that the scale should not be going up, but you're actually getting more lean, more toned and defined, obviously looking fitter and stronger in your photos, that means that the weight gain that you're experiencing is not fat gain, it's muscle gain. And also when we gain muscle, we're holding more water, we're holding more glycogen, the energy from carbs we store inside of our muscles, and you're also holding more gut weight because you're eating more food, so you're literally storing more food inside of your stomach, but all of this is making you actually look better. All right, guys, so that is a quick overview of how you kind of judge how to guide yourself through a reverse diet and how to be increasing your maintenance level calories so you can get to a point where you have a lean, sexy, fit, toned body that you're easily able to maintain because you are eating well over 2,000 calories a day, which is so sustainable. Now, again, you probably saw in this video that there is a lot of data that needs to be evaluated, a lot of decisions that have to be made. So I totally get that it feels confusing and overwhelming. And honestly, I would not want to guide myself through it. This is why I have a one-to-one mentor, because I just really prefer learning all of this while being told exactly what is right for me to do and getting the best results as quickly and fast as possible. So if you also don't want to waste your time and energy anymore, you just want to be told exactly what to do, having it perfectly dialed in, customized to you so you can get that lean, sexy, fit, toned body and maintain it for good while eating plenty of food, then click on the link in the description, fill out an application. I'd love to chat with you and see if you'd be a good fit for the program. All right, fam, thanks so much for checking out this video. Next, I want you to go watch this one here where I'm going to break down the cutting phase, the fat loss phase, which is what you're going to do after reverse dieting for a while to trim down the last bits of fluff and reveal all the sexy muscle underneath and get to your leanest level yet. So I will see you over in that video.